Hello, this is Alan, welcoming you to the 1938th edition of the Enfield Talking Newspaper. Dateline 23rd of January 2014. The readers this week are Jenny, Sonia, Anna and myself, with Keith on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser, and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prier, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, and is used with his kind permission. The local stories include Boy Dies After He is Taken to Closed A&E, Family Left Distressed by Death Certificate Mix-Up, Emergency Patients Forced to Wait More than 4 hours for Treatment, and Council Smoking Ban is Unfair on Workers. If you are experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Now Sonia will read the first item of local news. Sonia.
Campaigners have called for emergency services to be reinstated at Chase Farm Hospital following the death of a young boy who was rushed there by his mother only to discover the A&E unit had been closed down. 2-year-old Mohammed Hashir Navid was taken to Chase Farm in the Ridgeway, Enfield, at about 3 a.m. last Wednesday, as his mother mistakenly thought she could gain access to emergency services there. But the hospital's A&E unit was shut last month, after years of campaigners opposing the plans. Realising this, the boy's mother managed to contact a nurse who called 999 at 3:12 a.m. An ambulance arrived 8 minutes later. The London Ambulance Service said paramedics started to resuscitate the boy, who was in cardiac arrest. Attempts continued while the boy was taken to North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, where the ambulance arrived at 3:37 a.m. The boy was pronounced dead at 4 a.m. The cause of death is still under investigation. Walid Mirza, a family friend, said that Muhammad's parents were deeply distraught, but accepted their son's death as God's will. The incident has affirmed concerns about the consequences of the hospital downgrade, particularly the closure of the hospital's emergency unit on December the 9th. Patients requiring life-saving treatment are now taken to North Mid or Barnet Hospital in Wellhouse Lane, High Barnet. Kieran McGregor of the Save Chase Farm campaign said, "We are absolutely devastated. It should never have taken the death of a young child to illustrate what campaigners have been saying for a decade. Fully functional A&E services must be reinstated at Chase Farm immediately. An urgent review of the closure must be carried out. It would be an opportunity for the Health Secretary to come to Enfield to assess the evidence and to meet stakeholders directly." Enfield North MP Nick Dubois called for a nationwide review of A&E closure plans. "We owe it to the family of the boy to find out exactly what happened," he said. "I have always called for a review of closures because I don't think Enfield has the alternatives to an A&E people can go to." An investigation has been launched by the Barnet and Chase Farm Hospital's NHS Trust. A spokeswoman said, "The Chase Farm Urgent Care Centre is open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. There is an emergency phone at the entrance for patients who arrive outside these hours. A full investigation is underway to ensure the appropriate actions were taken." A family
claim they have been left stressed and upset after their mother's death certificate was filled out incorrectly. Charalamba Theodosou, 90, died on January the 7th, 2014 at North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, from a type of pneumonia that affects the lungs. However, on her death certificate filled out by the hospital, her passing was dated as December the 7th, 2014. Mrs. Theodosou's son-in-law, Keith Machin, has branded the mix-up as disgusting. He said it is absolutely disgusting of the hospital to make such an error. Our family is still grieving from my mother-in-law's death, and we all could have done without such a basic mistake being made by them. It's not good enough. The family were made aware of the mishap by the registrar at Enfield Borough Council. Mr. Machin said, "We have had to go through unnecessary hassle to get this changed, and now finally we can lay her to rest." Rita Machin of Snells Park, Edmonton, found it hard to talk about her mother's death, but did pay tribute to her. She said she was a good 90-year-old. She was still with it and was a lovely woman. She'd been in and out of the hospital with gout on her leg, but her condition got worse. She died in my arms. A North Middlesex University Hospital spokesman said, "One of our hard-working doctors mistakenly put the wrong date on the handwritten death certificate, for which we apologise to the family. Fortunately, the mistake was spotted and was not transferred to the official death certificate, which is correct, and the family can obtain copies in the normal way."
Thousands of emergency patients have had to wait more than 4 hours before receiving treatment at North Middlesex and Barnet hospitals over the past 7 weeks, new figures show. Figures obtained by the Advertiser from NHS England reveal that between the week ending December the 1st and the week ending January the 12th, Barnet Hospital in Wellhouse Lane, High Barnet, met the government target of treating 95% of A&E patients within 4 hours only once. That was in the week ending December the 8th, just before Chase Farm's A&E department closed. The accident and emergency unit at the hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield, was closed on December the 9th under the Barnet, Enfield and Haringey clinical strategy, with patients instead being taken to Barnet Hospital or North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton. But to relieve pressure, the Barnet and Chase Farm Hospital's NHS Trust has used a proportion of a recently allocated £5.1 million in extra winter funding to reopen wards for inpatients at Chase Farm. But in the week ending January the 12th, only 91.6% of emergency patients were seen within 4 hours at Barnet. The North Mid fared better, hitting the target 3 times over the same 7-week period. But its performance hit a low point in the week ending January the 12th, with just 92.8% of patients seen within 4 hours. Over the 7-week period, 23,764 patients attended the emergency unit at North Mid, on average 3,395 people per week. Barnet's A&E dealt with 16,194 over the same period, an average of 2,313 attendances per week. At the Edmonton Hospital, a total of 567 emergency patients had to wait between 4 and 12 hours to be admitted to a ward during the 7 weeks, compared to 251 at Barnet. But in the week before last, 2 patients at Barnet Hospital had to wait more than 12 hours for admission. Alef Kazimoglu, chairwoman of Enfield Council's Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Panel, told the Advertiser, "Attendances are going up and more patients are waiting longer on trolleys before admission. That is worrying, considering the fact that we are experiencing a mild winter. The figures reveal there is real pressure on beds, which causes delays. There are clearly not enough of them." A spokeswoman for Barnet and Chase Farm Hospital's NHS Trust said, "As expected, the new emergency department at Barnet has seen an increase in acute and life-threatening attendances. The Trust has planned for this and has coped well through the transitional period. The strategy intended an increase in clinical quality. Staff medical rotas have been changed to ensure there is 7-day consultant practice in A&E from early morning into the late evening. A spokesman for the North Mid said A&E activity and case mix fluctuates on an hourly, daily and weekly basis, which can impact on performance. Achieving 4-hour performance targets requires a whole system approach, including primary, community and mental health care. We are confident we will meet the 95% standard in the final quarter of the year.
Workers at Enfield Borough Council are fuming after they were ordered to smoke a minimum of 25 metres away from all council buildings. An email sent to staff states all employees cannot smoke within this distance. But the decision has left a sour taste in the mouths of some council workers. One man who works for the council, who asked to remain anonymous, said, "This is completely authoritarian by the council against those who want to smoke. I do not understand why it has decided to run with this." The email seen by the Enfield Independent was sent to staff on Friday, January the 10th. It reads, "The council is committed to ensuring that all our workplaces are smoke-free, and all employees and workers have a right to work in a smoke-free environment. All employees and workers are required to minimise the effects of their smoke on others whilst at work. Therefore, they are not allowed to smoke within a minimum distance of 25 metres from any council building, and are requested to extinguish their cigarettes and dispose of them appropriately." The email also states smoking is only permitted when workers are going to and from work and during authorised breaks. It adds, "We would like to remind all employees and workers that smoking is not permitted during working hours. This applies to all staff irrespective of where they work, in a council building or outdoors, or when driving a vehicle during working hours. Staff wishing to smoke can only do so on the way to and from work and during authorised breaks." The email concludes by giving website links and phone numbers to stop smoking companies. Another council worker said, "The totalitarian stance taken on this is wrong. More than 25 metres is quite excessive in my opinion, and unfair on workers." An Enfield Council spokesman said, "We are absolutely committed to minimising the impact of tobacco smoke on our staff and visitors to our buildings, and the communication sent to staff was designed to inform them of our policy with respect to our no smoking at work policy. While staff are prohibited from smoking during working hours, we do allow them to smoke, if they wish, during their authorised breaks. Our policy is proportionate, sensible and designed to protect public health." Sonia.
Enfield Borough Council has been named among the worst authorities in the country for food safety. An investigation by consumer magazine Which into food safety enforcement deemed it to be in the bottom 10 of 395 authorities across the UK. Of the 2,356 establishments rated by the local authority, 942 were deemed non-compliant with food standards, almost 40%. However, Enfield Council has taken action against 89% of those establishments that fell below the compliance level. In comparison, Bexley was voted the worst authority, with 556 of its 1,302 establishments, 43%, rated non-compliant. The best authority in the country was Charwell in the southeast, where of its 1,165 establishments, 1,130, that is 97%, were voted within the food standards. The study, based on data from the Food Standards Agency, also shows overall food testing for the whole country fell by 6.8% from the previous year. In response to the statistics, the Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "We have a fantastically diverse and thriving range of food businesses in Enfield, which deliver a brilliant service to thousands of satisfied customers every week. However, it is nonsense on the part of which, and actually counterproductive, to actively penalise food safety teams who go out into the community and find examples of bad practice. Under their scoring regime, authorities which carry out robust inspections and identify failings are rated as worse than authorities which conduct less forensic investigations into food hygiene. To my mind, that is wrong. In Enfield, we focus our effort and resources on conducting very thorough inspections of the highest risk food businesses in the borough in order to protect the public from harm."
Shopkeepers are working with Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows and a television hustler in a campaign to get a new zebra crossing installed in Palmer's Green. Fears have been raised by traders in Green Lane, Palmer's Green, that a crossing is needed to avoid a serious accident taking place. The area in question is close to a roundabout which links Green Lanes with Fox Lane, where people attempt to cross at a traffic island. Eula Kublis-Haki, who works at Dry Cleaners by Olivia, adjacent to the roundabout, says she sees near misses every week. Hundreds of people, including the elderly and parents taking their children to school, try to cross there every single day, and the amount of risks people take trying to cross there is unbelievable. It is extremely dangerous because it is the only place to cross where people can get to the nearby school, and it is only a matter of time before someone is seriously injured. I hope the council won't wait until that day to take action. Ms Kublis-Haki started a petition 2 years ago and collected more than 400 signatures but was unsuccessful. However, along with Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows and Matt D'Angelo, a former East Ender who starred in the BBC series Hustle, she has launched a fresh campaign to see a zebra crossing installed. Mr Burrows said many local shopkeepers and residents are concerned about their safety in crossing the road on this part of Green Lanes. They can see that unless the council takes action, it is a serious accident waiting to happen. Enfield Borough Council says it has already written to Mr Burrows regarding the matter. The council's cabinet member for the environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "While we understand residents' concerns about pedestrian safety at the junction and take road safety extremely seriously, there have been no reported injuries to pedestrians at the junction of Fox Lane and Green Lanes in the last 3 years. Installing a crossing on or near the roundabout would, regardless of its location, cause other safety problems, or require the removal of on-street parking to allow the necessary zigzag markings to be installed, something that would be likely to meet with resistance from local traders. However, we are currently in the process of reviewing pedestrian crossings in the borough and will be assessing this location as part of the review later this year."
A 3-year fight to get Network Rail to replant trees it controversially cut down in Grange Park has culminated in a victory for residents. Following a meeting with Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows last Thursday, the company has agreed to a 5-year replanting and maintenance plan at the railway embankment off Green Dragon Lane. Mr Burrows has been fighting a battle with the firm ever since it cut down the trees at the site close to Grange Park railway station without consulting residents in January 2011. He called the meeting after continuing concerns had been raised that the replanting was not being done according to previous agreements. Network Rail's operations manager Paul Rutter told the meeting that the Tree Council, a conservation charity, had completed a full survey of the site and had been commissioned to form a 5-year maintenance plan which is to be in place by March. Commenting on the victory, Mr Burrows said, "I am pleased that after several years of misery there is finally some good news for local residents. Network Rail has admitted that this situation should never have occurred, but it is important that we now ensure that the replanting of the embankment is completed in accordance with the wishes of residents. The MP said the firm had also agreed to implement a new process of communication with local authorities and residents about future vegetation management projects. He added, "I hope Network Rail have finally learnt their lesson that they must take the responsibility of the local environment seriously." Network Rail said the Tree Council would continue to work with the firm to carry out annual inspections to ensure that the full replant is completed and the site maintained. A spokeswoman said, "Network Rail fully understands and appreciates the frustration surrounding the removal of trees from Grange Park, and lessons certainly have been learnt. We would like to thank the local community for their patience and look forward to working more closely with Mr Burrows, Enfield Council and other interested parties in the future."
Thank you, Jenny. And here's another one with regard to trains. Secretary of State for Transport Patrick McLaughlin is set to look into the problems that have tormented a train line that passes through Enfield in recent months. The First Capital Connect overground service that runs through the borough has been hit by service delays, cancellations and technical problems since November. Earlier this month, Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows and Enfield North MP Nick Dubois met with area directors from First Capital Connect and Network Rail to voice the grievances of commuters. Now, Mr Dubois has challenged the Leader of the House of Commons, Andrew Lansley, to urge Mr McLaughlin to investigate the service and open a debate in the Commons. He asked, "Will the Leader of the House find time for us to have a debate on this appalling service in our constituencies?" In response to his request, Mr Lansley said, "I will ask my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Transport, to look specifically at the issues that he and his colleague raise." Husseini Mohammed from Windmill Hill uses the service every day from Enfield Chase Station and believes that enough is enough. He said, "We have had continual delays for 3 months. It just isn't good enough. There is almost a shocked look on everybody's face when a train comes in on time. There needs to be serious investment. This is my only way into work." Another disgruntled commuter, Kim Makawa, age 37 of Vera Avenue, said, "The trains are old and need upgrading. I pay a lot of money for a yearly travel card, but for what? This service needs to be sorted urgently." In response to Mr Lansley's answer, Mr Dubois said, "I'm quite pleased to see that Mr Lansley has taken this matter further than I expected, but this is just one of many avenues. David Burrows and I have already asked First Capital Connect and Network Rail to pull together and sort out this issue. With the Secretary of State for Transport looking into the problem, this will put pressure on them to provide a good service."
Green-fingered pupils and staff at an Enfield primary school have planted a new orchard in a nearby open space. Pupils from Oakthorpe Primary School in Tile Kiln Lane, Palmer's Green, have been helping to plant a new orchard on Kiln Lane open space. The initiative was set up by the London Orchard Project as part of its plans to transform areas in the capital by planting fruit trees. Teacher and coordinator of the project at Oakthorpe, Rebecca Robury, said, "It was great fun for the children to plant the fruit trees. This is an important project for the pupils as they will learn about the environment and how to care for their local area." More than 15 pupils from each school year group helped plant 7 trees, 1 for each year. Ms Robury said, "The trees are just 1 year old at the moment and will need a lot of attention. The area is undergoing a large redevelopment and hopefully the trees we have planted will make the open space much more appealing.
A recent political party leaflet distributed in Enfield has been condemned as scaremongering by an MP. Enfield North MP Nick Dubois has criticised the BNP's leaflet that has been distributed in the borough, accusing it of attempting to create tension for political gain. The pamphlet blasts Islam, claiming that the religion is a threat to British society and the British identity. It goes on to say, "We help local communities, oppose applications to build mosques, and threatens our British identity by converting churches and pubs into Islamic centres." Mr. Dubois said this type of copy and paste literature, which doesn't even try to focus on problems in Enfield, is just scaremongering. If any BNP politician bothered to look, they would see both the Union flag and the Cross of St George proudly flying outside the Civic Centre. So to argue the council is banning flags in order to avoid offending Muslims is 100% wrong. In addition, the leaflet warns against organised Muslim sex gangs attempting to groom young girls. The MP added, "This type of leaflet is designed to stir up racial tensions for the purpose of political gain. It is reprehensible and people in Enfield will see straight through it." However, BNP's London organiser, Stephen Squire, has defended the party and claims that Mr Dubois is trying to reinforce stereotypes about the party and win over the Muslim vote.
Police are appealing for help to trace a teenager who has been missing for 7 weeks. Hassan Musa Ali, 17, from Enfield Lock, was last seen on Wednesday, December the 4th. The teenager is 5'9" tall and of slim build. He is known to visit the Newham area of East London and Essex. Anyone with any information about Hassan's whereabouts is asked to call Enfield Police on 101.